Hi. My name is Fumi Lola Asa, and I'm jumping on this video to share a quick excerpt from a book I recently published called Take Stock of Who You Have Become on the Journey to Becoming. Yeah, Take Stock of Who You've Become on the Journey to Becoming. It's a faith-based practical guide for purposeful and impactful living. And so what am I sharing today? I was reflecting on a chapter in the book which talks about take stock of your resources. And for perspective, the book is in two parts. The first part talks about what you should take stock of in terms of taking stock of your well-being, taking stock of your assignment, taking stock of your opportunities and giftings, taking stock of your journey, and taking stock of your resources. And part two talks about why do we take stock? How do we take stock? And how do we translate that into impact through the doing? And it is a power-packed book. Like, it is something that I read sometimes and I'm like, really, how much more practicality and insights and light bulbs can be in one place at the same time? Yeah, you're probably wondering, because I already know that's not why. I think a trial will convince you. But so back to the reason why I'm on the call today. I was reading through the book today, just reading random chapters of the book. And I re-encountered something that I thought was very insightful. And probably somebody out there needs this. And it's around recognizing your credibility and your goodwill quotient. And so when we think about resources, one of the first things that comes to mind for people is the finances and the funds and all that. In this book, on the chapter of resources, there are 4 parts I highlight around what you should take stock of. One of that is, just your relationship quotient, your people resource. The second one is, the time as a resource, critical resource. Third one is recognize your credibility and goodwill quotient. And then the fourth one is your financial resources. And so today I was just reading the sub-chapter on credibility and goodwill. And I said, you know what, as soon as I get back from work, I do need to read this for somebody out there who needs this in their life, really, to think about the resources that they have in terms of credibility and goodwill. Now, this is a 2-part video, just so that it's not too long. And so in this first part, I will talk about the credibility and goodwill. In the second part of the video, I'll read the one on time as a resource. And I look forward to hearing your insights from this. What resonates? What was the light bulb moment for you? What are you going to think differently about when you think about those resources? And more importantly, I hope it excites you enough to go read the book, to get the book, and details of how to get the book. I have another video about that, but I would also link that, in the text of this video. All right, so with the preamble out of the way, we can get into the actual reading. And so again, it's take stock of who you have become on the journey to becoming. And I'm going to be reading, for those of you who have the book, I'm reading from page 198, page 198 on goodwill and credibility. All right. And so if I start, there is a quote in which I used to start the sub-chapter. It says, the miles that others can go with you and for you have multiplier effects on your efforts. Will they be willing though? So the actual reading of the book. A story is told in the Bible of the anointed future king of Israel, David. At the time when he was a fugitive, leading his band of mighty men that society called misfits at the time. He had longed to drink water from a well in Bethlehem that was on the other side from them, with the camp of the Philistines in between. He wished and said out loud, that someone will give me a drink of the water from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate. To his utter amazement, 3 of his men broke through the stronghold of the Philistines to get their leader his desire. David was so shocked, and he could not drink the water because in his mind he will be drinking the blood of those who risked their lives to get the water for him. And so he poured it out to the Lord. They could have wound up dead in their quest to get what somebody might consider a somewhat frivolous request, even if there was not such a challenge between the requester and his need. So the question is, why? Why would they risk their lives to do that for David? I would say that David had credibility and goodwill with them, to the point that they thought, if our leader David says he wants water from the well in Bethlehem, then it must be important. Consider it done. This story is a great narration of the importance of credibility and goodwill as a resource. These resources are indications of the willingness that people have to go the mile with you and for you. Your credibility answers the question for your advocates on why should we believe you, while the goodwill that you have with people answers the question of why should we support you. Taking stock of these two items provides an idea of the support system that exists for you out there as key resources and enablers on your journey of impact. So, when you look around you and the path that you have walked in life, how would you assess your credibility? Do you think that you have built goodwill, that people will be willing to go the extra mile for you? The truth is that these resources are built over time. Again, I recall the quote that I mentioned earlier in the book that has resounded in my mind since I heard it, about the fact that we live life in trickles, or that we leave a trail. From time to time, you encounter someone who is jumping through significant hoops or tackling some challenges head on behalf of an individual. They provide leverage and help you get results faster when the typical order of the day would have been bureaucratic. Sometimes these actions by advocates are carried out without the knowledge of the beneficiary of such efforts. And other people would often wonder why they are not able to get that support. The answer for me comes from an analogy of an experience that happened to me some weeks ago. I had some grocery shopping at a large store that I had not been to in a while. As I completed my shopping, I was about to pay for my items. I brought out my phone to open the store's loyalty program app to scan as usual and pick up points. Then I realized that I had built up a relatively significant amount in my accrued points from the store, accrued points, from my past frequent shopping before the long break from the store. So on this occasion, I decided to use my points for the purchase. As I said to the cashier that I wanted to use my points and called out the amount, the lady who was waiting in line next to me asked, "Oh, you have that much amount on your loyalty app?" To which I nodded in the affirmative, even though the points on this store's app was actually smaller than what I had also now accrued from another store chain that I now frequented. She was surprised that the little points that seem insignificant per purchase could really add up that much. She then turned to the cashier and said, "I must register today because I have been wasting my points away all this time by not logging my purchases," and whipped out her phone to start the process. I smiled as I completed the balance of my payment, picked up my items, and left the store. I wished her well as she started the journey, because those points that I had now used on that day were built up over months and probably a year's worth of consistently picking up seemingly insignificant points with every purchase. I hoped that she would have the patience to wait till she hit my target. This experience was yet another important life lesson for me. While I relate the analogy of store points to goodwill or credibility, when I relate the analogy of store loyalty points to goodwill or credibility, three distinct scenarios come to mind for me. First off, I start by saying that every encounter in life, whether a work assignment, an ad hoc project, an offsite relationship, or other examples, can be equated to my shopping encounters. There are the times when you're off doing something else as the focus, but get a chance to accrue points on the side. Whether or not you clock in the points, the actual encounter ends and everyone moves on to something else. So the first scenario will be the missed opportunity to log in a point on your goodwill card. This could be through a kind word, exceptional work ethics, professionalism, respect for others, appreciating your collaborators for a job well done, or just going out of your way to do something right and help others. When you complete the task but never leave an impression, it could be likened to you scoring high on your accomplishment or completion status, but logging no points on your goodwill. The second scenario is the case of logging points that could come in handy in the future. The key word is could, because you could log the points forever and never take the time to recognize how much it has accrued or even get a chance to use it. The third and final scenario is of the individual who takes stock of the goodwill in appreciation of the potential that it carries to complement a future effort, like the day I realized that my points could offset portions of my bill that day in the supermarket. So ask yourself, which of these scenarios is your day-to-day reality? This is important because the challenge for those in the second scenario is that they have gotten so much into the routine of building these points, but never realize how much they have accrued or may be worth. For someone focused on titles and accomplishments as a measure of relevance, they may have all these enablers available in the goodwill that is out there for them, yet they continue in self-defeat of feeling not enough. They may feel not connected enough or recognized to make things happen or make an impact in the lives of their target audience. They do not realize, like the case of the supermarket analogy, that some of the points that they carry can enable them to make a shopping trip, albeit with small purchases, and walk out of the store without paying a dime. All because they have points stored up that come in handy in the instance. They consistently hold themselves back due to a lack of appreciation of how far they have come on the journey of becoming. A fond example of accrued goodwill that I had but did not realize was when a colleague mentioned something to me last year. He stated how he held dear in his heart the fact that I traveled to his wedding, which took place in another part of the country over 12 years ago, and that I was the only female colleague present. It meant so much to him, and yet I had forgotten that I went to the wedding until he reminded me, and the memories started flooding back. Some months later, I was apologizing about how my crazy schedule and more from a bad habit of not visiting folks kept me from coming to visit his family. All he had to say was, "It's okay. I can't forget that you came to my wedding." It was so humbling to note that my little point of so many years was still accruing interest. The same goes for credibility. Being intentional in growing your credibility builds up resources that come in handy in the most unexpected scenarios. Yet, it is possible not to recognize it. 2 years ago, in a coaching session, after going on about needing to build my credibility with my target audience, my coach, Fofo, had asked me, "Fumi, why should people listen to you?" I started to respond by quoting my experiences, learnings, education, and all that made me the right person to be talking about the topics that I was looking to be a thought leader on. Then she told me what I had not quite taken the time to realize, even though I had all the answers. She said, "You already have credibility. You just need to build on it." The import of that sentence hits me like a splash of cold water that jolts the brain awake. It is there. It was there. I just probably undervalued what I already carried. I continue to be humbled when I get glowing comments from respected individuals based on some time in the past when we worked together, or from something that I wrote or something that I said. I realized that I was focused on my task, but somehow managed to consistently log my points, probably borrowing from the instructions that I received early in my career, which I discussed in chapter 2, about being so inspiring that when people meet me, they do not forget me. I logged the points, but never took time to realize how much they had accrued until the light bulbs came on and I started to leverage the resources already available to me. Can you think of the points that you may have already logged? Thinking about your journey and how it prepares you for your target audience, can you recognize some of the credibility built? What about your goodwill? What trail have you consistently left? What opportunities exist for you to leverage your goodwill and credibility? Where do the opportunities exist for you to grow your goodwill and credibility? What are the opportunities to put a stamp on your encounters and experiences? In my first episode on Transformational Insights Demystified podcast, titled How Credible Are You?, I discussed some questions that you must ask yourself to answer the question of whether you are credible to your target audience and offer some tips for growing your credibility. I recommend it as a great resource for a stock-taking exercise on your credibility. However, for the purpose of this section of the book, suffice it to say that your credibility is a critical resource for anyone on the journey of impact, and it unlocks doors even when you are not physically present in the instance to witness the benefits of the credibility at work. So, take stock of your credibility and your goodwill. They sure do come in handy. If you come up short in your assessments, then you should invest in building your credit points, like my supermarket loyalty point example, so that they can come in handy at critical moments on the path of your journey of becoming an influence. Thank you. So that was the excerpt of the book that I read today. And I said, you know what? I need to just jump on a recording and just read this out to somebody out there, hoping that you're able to reflect and think about your credibility and think about goodwill. You know, it's hard to think about it with the lens of resources, but it is indeed a resource. I'm sure that a lot of people can tell stories of how just being credible to the right audience allowed them access into places that they never thought possible. And sometimes they weren't even planning on being there, but they came in so highly recommended. And so people were willing to bet their own credibility based on this individual or this group of people's credibility. So are you taking stock of your credibility? Are you excited about what I just read? There are tons more of things like that in the book. I really, really encourage you to get a copy. It's available on Amazon. It's available in Nigeria. Just get the book and let me hear what resonates with you and how this is helping you to really recognize what matters for you on your journey of becoming. In part 2 of this, I would read out the excerpt on taking stock of your time as a resource. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you're rushing over to go click the button to buy the book. Thank you. Once again, my name is Fumilola Asa. I'm a transformational insights translator. I built on many years of experience of just helping people to make the step change towards becoming better versions of themselves. And I cannot wait to do that with you on the pages of this book and in other encounters that we have. Bye.